I know you're going to find this hard to believe. I know you are going to find this hard to believe. There is another Pac-12 expansion, Mountain West is dead update. And it turns out UNLV and Air Force are staying in the Mountain West, according to multiple sources. What did we tell you yesterday on the show? Not only that we're smart, not only that we're good looking, but that UNLV was staying in the Mountain West because they were going to get a $25 million bonus payment to stay in the Mountain West. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, reporting that UNLV is getting a $25 million bonus payment to stay in the Mountain West, which ultimately is the tipping point in this entire conversation. I think this is the only way forward for the Mountain West. They had no choice but to sell out and do everything they could do to keep UNLV and Air Force, because let's be brutally honest about where the Mountain West is right now. The Mountain West is teetering on the edge of that cliff where if they'd have lost even one more member, Air Force on their own, or certainly UNLV on their own, this conference would have been dead on arrival. You would have been playing out the string in the Mountain West for the next 2 seasons, and the Pac-12 would be growing into the singular behemoth of the G5. But now there are more questions about the relevance and the sustainability of the Pac-12 than the Mountain West, because UNLV and Air Force are staying in the Mountain West. And Jake, I think the single biggest question here is, how valuable do you think the Las Vegas market is to either one of these conferences?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's crucial to both of their existences. I think, for the Pac-12, you're trying to add brands, and you're trying to grow your market, and you're trying to grow your footprint. And so obviously Las Vegas as a West Coast brand is going to be crucial to that effort. For the Mountain West, I think Las Vegas has been crucial to what they've been doing since the inception of the conference. I think Las Vegas is pretty much your biggest market in the conference, even before, all of these teams left for the Pac-12, and now becomes one of your most important markets, because ultimately, keeping UNLV, allows you to say, hey, we have this big market in Las Vegas. We have a lot of other markets around that can support it from a conference perspective. And I just think that, ultimately, I think more than market size and geographic footprint for the Mountain West, keeping UNLV on premise alone is a huge win. And yeah, you had to pay him. Yeah, you had to, get that worked out, but you got the job done. And I think Gloria Nevarez, deserves a lot of credit for that. As the commissioner of the Mountain West, this is a turbulent time. This is a rocky time right now, and you're earning your paycheck now as a commissioner. There are a lot of times as a commissioner of a football conference or an athletic conference where, it's easy, right? You're just going to football games, you're kissing babies, shaking hands, you're doing commissioner things. But then other times, realignment's happening, expansion is happening for other conferences, and you have to really right the ship and guide your conference through tough times. And I think Gloria has done that. So how important is UNLV in the Las Vegas market to the Mountain West? It's crucial to your survival. And I think she's done a great job of keeping that brand in the conference.
Yeah, and I think this fight, and we're going to talk about the court side of this in a minute, but I think this fight that we're seeing in the Pac-12 in the Mountain West is that big word that we love to use on this show. It's an existential crisis for both of these conferences, because what you have here is UNLV and Air Force essentially saying, we'll take the $25 million bonus not to turn our lives upside down. That's basically what you're saying. And I think this now leaves the Pac-12 with very few places to turn for relevance, because you were not able to lure anybody from the AAC. You were not able to lure UNLV and Air Force from the Mountain West. And now you find yourself pinning all of your hopes and dreams to this lawsuit. And I think it's very interesting, this argument about what would make the Pac-12 more attractive than the Mountain West or the AAC. And I think outside of that, mythical power designation and doing everything that you could do to guarantee an AQ, I just don't think there's that much to hold on to in the Pac-12 certainly not over the AAC.
Right.
And I don't believe that you are in a better place And I'll look at Boise and San Diego State. I think the two premier brands that left the Mountain West to go to the Pac-12. Can you really say this morning that San Diego State and Boise State are in a better position today than they were the day before they left the Mountain West?
No.
I don't think you can say that, because now there are real questions about what the Pac-12 can do here, because your only option is to go to the FCS level. That's your only option. And if Sacramento State, I was told yesterday by people in Sacramento that Sac State is ready, willing, and able to pay that $5 million. There is a fee that you have to pay. If you want to go from 1AA FCS to FBS, which is the big boys of college football, if you want to do that to join the Pac-12, it's $5 million.
Well, Monty, $5 million is nothing to these schools. Well, it is at the FCS level. That's a huge
It's
payment.
a huge amount of money. And Sac State does have the unique infrastructure to do so. You're in a great market with great fans. And Sacramento is such a beautiful place. It is such a in my opinion, one of the thriving metropolises left in California. As much struggle and strife as Northern California has faced, Sacramento is doing well. And you look at the fan base that supports, for instance, the Sacramento Kings. If you elevate Sac State into a G5, I do believe the community would support them. Truly, I believe that Sacramento would support Sac State at a much higher level than they have in irrelevance, in my opinion, in the FCS. So I do think Sacramento State is one of those few schools that can't afford it, but that's only going to get you to 8. And I think you need a minimum of 10 to really make the case that you are the best G5 conference. And I don't know where that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
I do not.
Yeah, well, and I think that's what's put the Pac-12 in such a tough position here. And I think, it's been brought up briefly, and we briefly discussed it this week, this proposition of, hey, well, what if the Pac-12 doesn't work out? Like, what if, these schools committed to joining, but they can't add enough members and it kind of flames? Do these schools inevitably face the proposition of going back to the Mountain West at a steep discount? What does that look like? And I think that's what you would be talking about. But ultimately, this has been my point about like San Diego State and Boise State being so out there. Because remember what happened before the Pac-12 expansion thing took place. We had J.D. Wicker talking about why they didn't want to go to the Big 12. We had J.D. Wicker putting out statements about how, like, oh yeah, like we're trying to get into the Pac-12 and we didn't want to go to the Big 12 and we valued the Pac-12 way more. And so then the next day, all this whole storm of expansion and we're adding these schools came out. So I just think that these schools were really like high on their horse about making this move. And again, I really do feel like you made that decision based on something that wasn't 100% solid. I mean, there's no guarantees that this conference is going to fully pan out and climb back to relevancy. There's no guarantees that you're, going to get into the college football playoff with any regularity or even breaking it down further. There's no guarantees you're going to make more money. And that's what is so shocking to me about the whole thing.
Yeah. And I think that it is, it's important to go back to the beginning on this. And I think Scott Barnes, the athletic director at Oregon State, again, plays a critical role here. He is a very important figure in the Pac-12. He is a power broker there. His word carries a lot of weight. And this idea that he's been committed only to the Pac-12 is simply just, from what I am told, not the case. He absolutely reached out to the Big Ten. He reached out to the Big 12 when the Pac-12 melted down. I am told weeks ago he reached out during the summer to the Big 12 to try and explore Big 12 membership for Oregon State. That did not work out. And then when UConn and the Big 12 were undressed in public about their merger talks and bringing the UConn basketball program and athletics, everything outside of football, to the Big 12, that kind of is what spurred the Pac-2 to get into action here and get very serious about going after the Mountain West. And that brings us to the court case, because I also think that there is this belief somehow that the Mountain West, perpetrated some great legal fraud against the Pac-12. And we've done a lot of work in the last 24 hours to fully understand the language and the verbiage that is in the complaint filed by the Pac-12 against the Mountain West. And they're not arguing duress. And I think this is a really important part of this conversation. Having read now and having talked to legal people who have read the filing from the Pac-12 against the Mountain West, it would almost be impossible now for the Pac-12 to turn and claim duress, which, hey, we were under the gun, we were emotional, we were not in our right mindset, that there was some exterior force, applying pressure to the Pac-12, and they had no other choice but doom to sign this agreement.
Right.
Where, hey, we're going to do a scheduling alliance, and if you poach our members, you're going to pay us $10 million per member. That's not what the Pac-12 is arguing. What the Pac-12 is arguing is that it is an interruption of free and fair trade to put these poaching penalties and exit fees in a contract, which makes that contract null and void. That's what the Pac-12 is arguing. Funny, who else is arguing that exact same thing? Florida State and Clemson against the ACC. And how has that worked out for Florida State and Clemson? Well, it hasn't. Because when you, in all right mind, in the absence of duress, and I think that's a really important term here, because as it was explained to me by a really good contract attorney yesterday, in the absence of duress, if you are arguing the validity of a contract based on the contents and the terms of that contract, and your argument is that this exit fee of $10 million or the poaching fee of $10 million in totality, the $150 million that you would supposedly owe if you are the Pac-12 and the exiting members of the Mountain West, if you're saying that that has blocked the ability of other members to leave the conference, you're going to have to, in some form or fashion, find a way and make an argument that this is not fair trade, that this violates long-held federal statutes and contract law. And the biggest issue is there's no precedent that says poaching fees and exit fees violate free and fair trade. And the argument that the Pac-12 is making is that this poaching fee and these exit fees violate the Sherman Antitrust Act, which there's no precedent in any athletic endeavor that the Sherman Antitrust Act has been leveraged to get people out of paying terms of a contract in professional sports. That's never happened. And the other part of this that I think is so important, again, it was negotiated. It was between two parties who had an agreement in place and then negotiated further terms of that agreement. And those further terms were put in place to protect the Mountain West, in this case, against the exact actions of the Pac-12. So you can't both be an actor and the plaintiff and expect to win. And I think that's the single biggest issue here. Florida State and Clemson have, on some level, created a precedent that the Mountain West, should that Florida State ACC case either be adjudicated to its end, which means a judge rules, or should that case be settled, the Pac-12 is going to find itself in a very difficult position to make the argument that this poaching fee agreement and contract violates the Sherman Antitrust Act, because simply they won't have precedent and they won't be able to argue duress. I think it makes it, Jake, very implausible that the Pac-12 is going to defeat the Mountain West in this case.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, it's perfectly said. And I think that, defeating the Mountain West in this case is just not a fight that you have legs with. And I think, all the reasons you laid out there are spot on. And again, it's exactly what I said when this suit first came out. This is a case of basic ass contract law. Hey, you got a piece of paper out. You wrote down the terms that you were agreeing to. You both signed it. And now that you don't like it, you're trying to sue your way out of it. I mean, it's as simple and as archaic as it gets, man. I mean, this isn't, we're not talking about ESPN here. We're not talking about, some big company. It's the leadership of the PAC-2 at that time when this was done. The PAC-2 going to Gloria Nevarez in that conference, and those two hammering out details for a scheduling alliance. And as part of that, the Mountain West and Gloria Nevarez, give her credit, put in these poaching fees because they knew what was likely. And
I think
now
that's
here
very
we
true.
are. Here we are. And I'm just telling you, it's a very tired, very, worn out strategy to try to sue your way out of this. And I also would point out, just like I did with Florida State, this is an awful look for Scott Barnes and company. Not just Scott Barnes on his own. The commissioner of the Pac-12. I still believe, even though Kirk Schultz is retiring, he's still right in the middle of this thing. I think the guy loves to sit at a table and pontificate about how the Pac-12 is amazing and they deserve this and that when they haven't deserved anything and they haven't earned anything. And I think that's the problem here. You thought that you could just go in and set fire to the Mountain West house and take all these teams, and you thought they weren't going to do anything about it because somehow you were the bigger guy in the room. And you said this the other day, and I think it's spot on. The Pac-12 is not the bigger person in the room. The Pac-12 is not a bigger brand than the Mountain West.
Correct.
And that's something that I think
at least not yet.
Yeah, not yet. And I think that not yet part doesn't turn into they are for a long time, because I don't know who you're going to add.
And let me show you this definition, the legal definition of duress from NYU law. Duress refers to a situation where one person makes an unlawful threat or otherwise engages in coercive behavior that causes another person to commit acts that they would otherwise not commit. And I think that last sentence, that causes another person to commit acts that they would otherwise not commit.
Yeah.
The crux of this argument with the Pac-12 is, well, we're not telling you that we're not going to take your members. We don't want to pay you penalties if and when we take your members. Duress simply doesn't exist here. And I bring this up so pointedly because, I mean, it must be 40, 50 comments in the comments section over the last 2 days since this suit was filed. And really yesterday, since we talked about this on the show, duress simply does not exist here. And I would encourage you, do what I did. I just reached out to my sphere of influence. I reached out to people I know that are qualified contract legal minds. And I talked to 3 different people who told me the exact same thing. Now, they would have to expressly argue that that the Mountain West put them in a situation of duress, that they threatened them, that they
would need like evidence to show that there was actual duress.
And they would have to make that as the argument. They're making an antitrust argument against the Mountain West.
Which, again, I still think is a pretty weak argument because, again, you're not talking about, hey, like, I couldn't acquire something because, this company has, control over the entire market, or like, that's not what we're talking about here. You're trying to make an antitrust claim when we're just sitting here talking about, again, basic contract law. And it's one of my favorite portions of the legal system is contract law, because it's very simple. Hey, were you under duress or not? Well, very clearly you were not, because again, if we think about the parameters or the situation, the factors that went into creating this contract, where were we in the conversation? Hey, we were at UConn in the Big 12. We're doing their thing. And, well before that was announced, the Pac-12 was clearly trying to figure out what is our way back. And they decided, hey, our best way back is to do a scheduling alliance with the Mountain West. So let's go ahead and reach out. So you initiated the contact here. You initiated this process.
Yes.
Like, it's not like the Mountain West most certainly did not go to the Pac-2 and say, hey, here's a life raft. Let's go ahead and they didn't do that. And that's not how it works.
This from Cornell law. This is the definition of the Sherman Antitrust Act. And I think this is I know this is the argument that the Pac-12 is going to make in court, because this is what they said in their filing. The Sherman Antitrust Act, and note the highlighted section I have for you, prohibits activities that restrict interstate commerce and competition in the marketplace. It outlaws any contract, conspiracy, or combination of business interests in restraint of foreign or interstate trade. And what the Pac-12 is arguing is that these exit fees and these poaching penalties restrict other members and itself from operating on their business level. It interrupts their ability to operate as a business, because the Mountain West has a grant of right in a charter that forces members to pay an exit fee if they want to go to the Pac-12.
Well,
that is the argument. Now, here's the problem.
yeah.
As I told you before, because most contract law is won and lost on precedent or previous rulings, previous judgments. Well, what happened in the Pac-12's previous case? As I mentioned yesterday, who's the Pac-12's biggest enemy here?
Yeah.
Well, the Pac-12. Because what did the judge rule? The exiting 10 members have no vote, have no voice, because they exited the conference. He did not rule, as the exiting 10 members tried to get him to rule, that, hey, we're members and we still have a voice until such date. And what ultimately did the Pac-2 and the exiting 10 use this? And I'll call it what it was described to me as yesterday. What is this lawsuit that the Pac-12 has filed? It's an instrument. It's a tool for negotiations. That's what this is. I don't believe the Pac-12, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the contract lawyers I spoke to, nobody believes that they think they can win that lawsuit.
Yeah, well, and I also think, again, it goes back to this concept of who are you talking to? I mean, do you not understand your place in the room? Like, you're trying to bulldog the Mountain West, and I understand the Mountain West isn't the SEC or the Big Ten, but the Mountain West, in my opinion, has been the best G5 conference for some time. I mean, and I think when you look at Gloria Nevarez's, arc and path to this point, like, this is not someone who's new to this game.
No,
she's been in this game a long time, and I think that the other part of what we were talking about there with precedent that I think is going to really hurt the Pac-12's argument here is that exit fees and grant of rights and those type of contracts are all boilerplate. That's what everybody does. That's how we do business right now in college football. Hey, there's this group of schools is going to get together and grant their rights to the conference, in this case, the Mountain West. And as part of that process, there's going to be an exit fee, because when there's three parties involved, right? You've got the schools, you've got the conference, and then you've got, in this case, CBS Sports or, the CW or, your different TV part. You got to have this stuff laid out. So the idea that you would go to court,
100%,
and, the idea you go to court and you would argue, hey, well, having an exit fee or having this contract set up the way it's set up is an antitrust violation, just is poor legal work, in my opinion. That's not, like, what do you mean it's poor contracting? That's the way it works. So that's why I say, like, I agree. The Pac-12's biggest enemy is now and has always been the Pac-12. Whether it was, we take this thing all the way back to, hey, how you were spending your money and the funds and the lack of business acumen, all the way to, hey, like, we don't understand why getting a deal done that is a majority of streaming and less cable would be actually a really cool thing. We could be on the forefront and we can make money that way, and we could kind of change the landscape. Those schools that are now in the Big Ten and the Big 12 were unwilling to get on board with that. And so I just think that this conference, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the Pacific Ocean breeze or the air they breathe. Like, I don't know if it's something they eat out there, but, like, they just can't get out of their own way.
And I think the hard part here is that no matter what happens here, and let's say that the Pac-12 and the Mountain West both exist, this is devastating to the Mountain West. And the argument that the Mountain West is going to make in defense, in my opinion, is, hey, you signed a contract. Then you turned around, you took our biggest football brands and you did real damage to the Mountain West Conference, which is why in the first place we put these legal contracts in place to protect ourselves,
These
which is what contracts do. They spell out, your entitlements. Essentially, hey, you can do this and you can't do that. Sign on the dotted line, right? And you did real damage. You look at what Boise State represents, and Fresno State in near term has represented to the Mountain West. Those are your best football programs in recent years. And really, Boise State throughout the years.
Yeah.
It's really damaging. And I think that's what the Mountain West is going to use as a defense. And again, I don't believe the Pac-12 thinks they can win this case. I think the Pac-12 simply is doing what savvy business people do, which is, oh, you won't come to the table and negotiate these exit fees? Here, let me force you in the mediation.
Well,
because my guess is the judge is going to put this into mediation.
Again, like, I don't disagree with that. I mean, it's clearly a tactic they're trying to use, but I'm a big believer that no matter how you want to go about it, right? Like, if you want to force someone's hand through suing them, let's say, or creating a lawsuit, if there's another leverage play, it doesn't matter how you go about it or the why behind it, unless you have the hammer. If you have the hammer, if the Pac-12 was in a position to say, hey, yeah, if you don't give us UNLV, we're going to end your conference, right? If you don't give us this, we're going to do that. But that's very clearly not the position the Pac-12 is in.
Very clearly.
And so the idea that, again, it just stands out to me so much that the Pac-12 thinks that they can come in here with a lawsuit, and that's going to compel Gloria and company to acquiesce or to give them, because I think ultimately the point of this is clearly to get a discount. I don't think anybody in the room thinks that you're just not going to pay any fees.
Well, because understand, and that's an excellent point. Understand what this does. Filing this lawsuit only extends and elongates a timeline of paying those fees and paying UNLV their $25 million bonus. Because I also think what the Pac-12 would like to do here beyond the money savings is shorten the timeline. I think they would like to have those members join their conference next summer. And if you're able to accomplish that, because understand where you are right now, you got to play the 25 and the 26 season. So that's a long time where you are just two teams and you're trying to figure out where you're going to schedule games.
Oh, it's a long time to not be making money.
So I think what you're trying to do here, and this is the biggest question, what you're trying to do here is shorten the timeline and shorten your financial exposure to those fees, the exit fees and the poaching penalties. Because I also think you've got to get a media rights deal done.
Absolutely.
And if it is what we think it is, which I'm pretty certain that it is, the CW and Amazon Prime Sports, you really need to get those deals done, because those people are at the table now. And I do think that there is real value, depending on where you end up, membership-wise. Because my opinion is you've got to go to the Sun Belt and get Texas State. If you're the Pac-12 or you're the Mountain West, my belief is you better get your ass down to San Marcos, Texas.
Yes.
That little enclave between Austin and San Antonio?
Yes.
You got to get down to Texas State, in my opinion. And you've got to go and get that, because I don't see any way that either one of these conferences survives without a foothold in Texas.
Yeah, well, I just think, any major conference has to have a presence there. And I think that, it's been interesting to see, the Big 12's, the Big 10's ascension without a major nameplate there. Clearly, the Big 10 has done a great job of ascending with what they have. But I think that's why the SEC went after Texas and OU so hard. And I think that, again, I'm just saying, if I'm the Pac-12 and I want to get this done faster, the way to do that is not by suing. The way to do that is by bringing equity to the table for the Mountain West and saying, okay, hey, we understand that this move that we just perpetrated against you really hurt the Mountain West brand. We get that. We acknowledge that. but here's what we think we could do together to find a solution. And that's what I think the Pac-12's issue is they're looking at this as us versus you versus, hey, how can we consolidate and make this better for everyone?
Because that's what they should have done.
Yeah.
They should have merged. I don't think that happens now. I'll go back to what my prediction was for the Mountain West 2-3 weeks ago. You got to pick up the phone and call Conference USA.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where I would go, because I also look at Conference USA, and there's two brands in Conference USA that make a hell of a lot of sense for both of these conferences, UTEP and New Mexico State. Because if you think about travel cost and infrastructure cost, that's a huge part of this conversation. Neither one of these conferences is getting $25, $30, $40 million a year per school in media rights deals. That's not happening.
Right.
If you figure that the top of the mountain for either one of these conferences is $10 million, you're talking about UTEP and New Mexico State. And I think in Conference USA, you look at the brands in Conference USA right now, it's kind of torn and tattered. Liberty, which is in Virginia. You look at Sam Houston, Western Kentucky, Louisiana Tech, Florida International, Jackson State, like Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State, which is up and coming, awesome facilities at Kennesaw State, Middle Tennessee, UTEP, and New Mexico State.
Right.
I think there's a lot of brands in that conference that makes sense for the Mountain West.
But isn't there some of this dynamic too? Like, if you're these G5 conferences, right? Like if you're the American Conference USA,
look at the Sun Belt,
Sun Belt, right? Like if you look at these conferences, are leadership from these conferences not getting together and saying, hey, like, why are we allowing the Pac-12 to come in here and poach teams? Why wouldn't we just get together, basically blacklist the Pac-12, keep them out, keep them away, and let them figure that out and keep our system the way it is? Because if you think about it, and again, this is why I brought this up, like if the Pac-12 flames, and I do think they'll get to 8. I think getting to 10 at this point is kind of a stretch. I don't know how, like, some things are going to have to change if you want to get to 10 teams in the Pac-12.
I don't know how
But like if the Pac-12 struggles to get to 8, if you're the rest of these conferences in the group of 5, are you not sitting here saying, man, like, look what they did to the Mountain West. We can't have that happen here in Conference USA. We can't have this happen in the American. We're gonna batten down the hatches, and we're gonna make sure that our system stays intact. And then what we're gonna do in addition to that is we're gonna create a college football playoff for the G5, and we're basically gonna say, okay, cool. We're gonna make more money, and we're gonna exclude those guys and force them to come back to the table. That's what needs to happen.
It's interesting. I was talking to a TV guy yesterday about this, and I think this particular person made a really good point. You've got to give the Pac-12 credit for swinging for the fences, and they did. With their raid of the Mountain West, they turned around and then tried to raid the AAC for the biggest brands in both conferences, which would have made a significantly stronger G5 conference. If you'd have got USF, Memphis, and Tulane, and added that to Boise and San Diego State and Fresno State, you're cooking with gas at that point. But you missed. And nobody remembers Aaron Judge swinging and missing.
Yeah.
They remember the bombs he hit. And that, to me, is one of the best analogies I have heard in this entire thing. Because now I don't think the Pac-12 can recover from swinging and missing on the AAC, and now overnight finding out, UNLV and Air Force, they're not going either. That is a really damaging blow, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out. Enough of us. More of you on the Monty Show. The comment section, as always, is presented by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, the app. The best daily fantasy app in the business. And I tell you guys every day, I have a problem. I love Prize Picks to death.
Right.
I'm a big Prize Picks fan.
A prize picker.
I'm a big picker of the prizes.
Right.
I would, again, tell you that they have the best daily fantasy promo I've ever seen. You deposit $5 in a new account at Prize Picks, they'll give you 50 more. Download the app, use the promo code Monty, You deposit $5 in a new account, they'll give you 50 more. I sank to a new low last night. And I am nude, naked, standing before you.
Sorry, nude, naked?
Standing before you, confessing my insecurities, confessing my weaknesses for Shohei Ohtani.
The great gambler.
Who the other night noticed my nudity, and that's why he was on deck when the Dodgers grounded into a game-ending triple play. And all I needed was one more hit, run, or RBI from him.
I'm listening to an interview yesterday. They straight up are talking about, why didn't you just have Buddy bunt to ensure that Ohtani would get the plate appearance?
Because that way Uncle Monty doesn't win prize picks, boy. So last night, of course, I went back to Aaron Judge.
Right.
No, I actually didn't. I went to Shohei Ohtani.
Right.
Do you guys think I won? Caitlin Clark on assists, Shohei Ohtani on hits, runs, and RBIs, and Juan Soto on hits, runs, and RBIs. Win or loss?
I mean, that sounds like a win. But
You goddamn right it's a win.
right.
Caitlin Clark, 8 assists. She had 9. Shohei Ohtani on a demon. Not only did I not take him, and a demon means it's more difficult to win. Not only did I not take him straight across, I took a demon. 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. He had 5.
Right.
Juan Soto, who should still to this day have been a Chicago Cub and is not. You prick. Juan Soto, 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. He had 7. Your boy's a winner.
Not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, but 7.
$70 into the Monty Prize Picks account. You guys, it's not difficult. Use my formula. I win. I've won 4 out of my last 5 non-football plays.
And got the President's Cup going on right now.
Yep. So we're gonna be winning over the weekend here. Get on board. You deposit $5 in a new Prize Picks account, they'll give you 50 more. Hook it up. Use a promo code Monty MONTY to download the Prize Picks app. Click the link in the description below. Hello, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. If you are not watching on YouTube right now, come on over. Come on.
Hit the like button.
Come on over. Subscribe. Hit the like button. And then click the link in the description on our YouTube channel to download the Prize Picks app, or just use the promo code Monty. All right, who's first in this morning? How about Calford? Let's go. 5, 10, 15, and 20 Monty Show membership.
Okay.
Single-handedly powering the Marty program. The real Pete Forte with not 5, but 10 Monty Show members.
Let's go, Pete.
Pete, appreciate you. Calford, as always appreciate you. The Ukrainian mail order bride industry is booming. Still legendary. For $5. So I guess the Pac-12 can still add New Mexico State, Texas State, Montana State, Missouri State, and Arkansas State. They can try.
Schools.
They can become the state school G5.
Right.
I think Texas State's a huge ad here. I think on this show I have professed my love of San Antonio. And if you don't know where San Marcos, Texas is, it is south and west of Austin and north and east of San Antonio. I think it is a phenomenal institution. Their sports are really strong right now. I think it's a big ad. And if you look at Conference USA right now, there's a lot of value in UTEP as well. The state of Texas, I think, is available. And I think geographically speaking, if you got Texas State, if you got UTEP, New Mexico State, that's a pretty good basketball road trip, in my opinion. And if you're able to do that, and you're able to make the case that, hey, you should join our conference. Come on over, join our conference. I think it's going to be tough, because what the Pac-12 has, and I don't understand it, but what the Pac-12 has is this mythical aura about it where, oh my God, it's the Pac-12. Does the Pac-12 brand still have cachet, in your opinion?
I wouldn't say that. I think that In my opinion, I firmly believe that they sold those initial ads, mainly Boise State and San Diego State, on a dream. I think you sold them on, hey, you guys are clearly the class of the Mountain West. Come join our conference.
We're going to get the class of the AAC.
Yeah, we're going to get the class of the AAC, and then you guys being as good as you are, you're going to have that last G5, highest ranked conference champion G5 spot for the college football playoff.
We're going to get Utah State and Logan, Utah, and the Department of Justice to join the conference as well.
And we're going to put out a graphic when we do it celebrating it, and it's going to be great. And I think that's why you should join our conference.
I think they did sell a dream. I think that is the exact right way to say that.
Yeah,
and I think it's very.
And I think
it's very much turned into. You guys ready? It's very much turned into a nightmare.
So see what you did there. That was dreams and nightmares, and
juxtaposed.
It's all, it all works
Existential.
together.
Let's be real here. If the Pac-12 offers Hawaii, San Jose State, and Texas State tomorrow, I don't believe that Hawaii is of value. I think it is expensive to fly your football team, and I'm pretty certain that Hawaii is only in the Mountain West in football. But it's really expensive to fly your football team because, remember, you can't truck your equipment. I know you guys might know this. There's no highway to Hawaii. You've got to, get on an aeroplane and fly yourself to Honolulu.
Right.
It's expensive to fly a football team to Honolulu.
But I think more to the point in this comment, what makes you so sure that those schools would just jump at it? Because I'm not convinced. I got to be honest with you, man. Like I'm more convinced that it's a huge question mark. You're basically, what you're doing is you're assessing risk. You're saying, hey, what's the lower risk play here for us? Is it staying in the American or going to the Pac-12? Like,
again, I'll steal a line from a guy I talked to yesterday, very close to this situation. What are we getting that we don't already have if we join the Pac-12?
Yeah.
Very simple question.
It's not rocket science, bro.
In the Pac-12 that we don't already have in the Mountain West or the Sun Belt or...
Oh, I know what you're getting. Oh, that's right. A lot more reliability issues.
Legal fees. Expenses.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting that you don't have now. And who has inflicted legal fees on the Mountain West here? The Pac-12. Who has created the instability in the Mountain West? The Pac-12. And if you don't think that there is going to be animosity towards the Pac-12 from people like the Sun Belt, the AAC, because don't get it wrong. The Sun Belt, Conference USA, the Missouri Valley, the Big East, they're all closing ranks. They're all they're in a defensive posture right now. The drawbridge is up. It is not down in all these conferences. They are ready for battle.
Yeah.
And the Mountain West, the very fact that they have survived this initial onslaught from the Pac-12 speaks volumes not about the Mountain West, but about the weakness in what they do not have to offer in the Pac-12. A TV deal, namely, because you talk about selling a dream. That's all you're selling in a TV deal.
Yeah.
And the comment section yesterday, 3-4 guys were saying, well, they have a TV deal now. They'll get another one. Well, isn't that what they were selling 18 months ago now, or a year ago now, excuse me, when this conference melted down? Well, we're going to get a $50 million per school a year TV deal.
Y'all remember, we're going to get the biggest TV deal that college football's seen. That was the ask. Hey, we want $400 a year. That's what they were asking for initially. And that's what started insulting TV industry professionals, is when Kleofkoff came with that number. And that's just not, I'm telling you, it is the arrogance it takes to say, oh, we have one now, so that means we're just going to get another one, is insane. Because if you think that, or if you feel that way, you don't understand that, hey, the landscape is changing, man. Like the money that's sitting in the coffers 100%. At ESPN and Fox and CBS and NBC. Like look at how the face of broadcasting has changed. Like now ESPN is the home of the SEC, not CBS, right? Like think about the way all of this is changing for better and for worse. So the idea that you think that TV deals are just like, oh yeah, we got one now, we can go get another one. That's crazy, man.
And I think it is very much It's a value play at this point, and I think you're exactly right. The never-ending fountain of cash out of the TV deals is over. That it is that's not the case anymore. You're not the Big Ten deal was a unicorn. It was not the new normal. It was a unicorn, and I truly believe the way that the SEC is doing business. Please don't lose your mind because I said something nice about the SEC.
Well, it's
How
an
dare
SEC
you?
show.
How dare you, Marty? Marty, we believed in you, and then you talk nice about Greg Skanky. The business model that the SEC has put forward, and I think largely taken from the Big 12 now, don't pay us $100 million per school. Help us make $100 million per school.
Yes.
Be part of our revenue-generating solution. Hey, pick your huge oil company. Hey, ExxonMobil. Why don't you come and put your logo on all of our fields? And ESPN's going to give you a 25% discount on TV spots during Big 12 football games. Hey, that Georgia Alabama game. Why don't we have it presented by Coca-Cola? You pay us $100 million, and that's going to include your Coca-Cola is the presenting sponsor on ESPN and ABC and ESPN Plus. That's the deal. Those are the deals being made. The partnerships. And again, as much as I say nice things about the SEC, I know you all hate when I say nice things about ESPN, but what does the Big 12 and the SEC have now? They have a really powerful partner in ABC and ESPN and Disney, because they can leverage that relationship as BYU did to get into the Big 12. They can leverage that relationship now to say, hey, Dr. Pepper, why don't you be everything that happens in Kansas City during the basketball tournament? Or why don't you be everything that happens in Tarrant County for our Big 12 championship game?
Yeah, and I think ESPN values that relationship too, like the ability to do that.
And those Dr. Pepper commercials that you guys run, you're going to get a 17% discount from ESPN for that.
Yeah.
Because we're all partners. That's the business model. So what the Pac-12 has to wrap its head around is, well, we didn't get Las Vegas, and we didn't get the state of Texas, and we didn't get the state of Florida, and we didn't get Memphis. So we don't have 4 time zones. Because what does Brett Yormark have? Well, he's got West Virginia, and he's got the state of Florida,
yep,
and he's got the state of Texas, and he's got the state of Utah. Like he's got a really nice spread across the country. He's got all the time zones. He's winning. That's what he's got. He's winning. And to me, that's what the Pac-12 has to build. And if you're not going to build that, you better put together a package that includes the state of Texas. I think it's critical. It has to happen.
Yep.
Harry Austin for $5. To me, the question is, could you see Boise State, San Diego State, CSU, and Fresno walk back?
Yeah, at a steep discount.
I don't think that happens.
Well, I think that it may not happen now, but let's say that you add Texas State or whatever, a brand out of Texas to get to 8, and then the TV deal is lackluster. Let's say that the demand in the market from TV partners is not great. Like it just is kind of a mediocre TV deal. And now the schools in the Pac-12 are like, hey, what the hell? You promised us X, and now you're giving us Y. And now we look like idiots because we left a better situation. Like that can't happen if you're the Pac-12. And I feel like right now, where we stand today, the odds of that happening are 50-50. I think I'm not convinced that just going to the CW and Prime is going to make you the type of money that makes it worthwhile. Because think about like anytime we're saying things like, hey, does it make it worthwhile for Boise State? That's not an X's and O's conversation. That's an emotional based, like, hey, do we feel good about what we're doing conversation? And I just think that that's different depending on who you ask.
I think It is different depending on who you ask.
Yeah, I mean, that answer is going to be different for Wickerville than it is for
Wickerville.
Boise State. Yeah.
J.D. Wicker, the athletic director at San Diego State, by the way. Wickerville.
Hey, you like that?
I actually do. Ukrainian mail order bride industry is booming for $5. The best schools Pac-12 could get at this point. The best schools, reading comprehension, Pac-12 could get at this point are North Texas, Tulsa, Texas State, UTEP, and New Mexico State. I think Tulsa's not bad. I think Texas State is very interesting. I'll continue to say, I think logically planned travel matters. So sure, I could see Tulsa mattering, but Tulsa has been non-existent in football. And I think you have to find programs that can win football games and bring you value, because I don't think unless it's I could see the argument that like San Jose State, who's probably the smallest brand in the Mountain West. I could see the argument, well, if they get San Jose State, they cripple the Mountain West. I agree with that. That's the only reason you would take San Jose State, because they certainly do not bring you the Bay Area. They do not deliver San Jose. They do not deliver the South Bay. They don't.
Yeah.
But they do serve a purpose in crippling the Mountain West Conference.
Which, again, has been your, I hate to say this because I feel like it's full of vitriol, but I feel like that's been one of your main purposes here. Hey, if you're sitting in a boardroom before you announce this, hey, we're going to go out and target these schools out of this conference. How are you running from the fact that, bro, this is our initiative to go out and take this conference down and do that by taking their best brands? Like, it's a tough look.
Yeah, I agree. Couple more. UW fan Jim, NTWs. I don't know what that means. Can't survive the loss of their best brand. Do you mean the Mountain West Conference? I don't know what you mean by that.
Yeah.
Thomas Reed. By the way, UW fan Jim, a member for 14 months.
Yeah, appreciate you, UW.
On the show.
Yeah.
You'll eventually play the song.
Sorry, I got like 80 pages of drops over there.
Thomas Reed for $10. Point is not Hawaii, I think. Hawaii, San Jose State's value. It's grabbing two vulnerable Mountain West schools, crippling the Mountain West, and then getting UNLV for nothing compared to adding Texas State. I don't disagree with that premise, but you have UNLV and Colorado or Air Force Academy now signing an agreement to stay in the Mountain West.
And by the way, let's say you did that and you added those schools just to do that. You got to understand those schools have to be part of the next TV deal. So you're devaluing your TV deal for your premier partners at that point, which I think makes that difficult.
And I will again tell you that the Mountain West has a commitment from CBS. And the Mountain West has a commitment from Fox Sports. That's why it was so imperative that, you hired Gloria Nevarez a couple of years ago now, because she's got great TV relationships, and she has remained sources have told me she's remained in communication with CBS and Fox. They're two bigger partners, obviously, on the situation. And they have kind of guided her along. And I think that's why UNLV was such a big part of this. I think it was critical that the Mountain West keep UNLV in the Las Vegas market. And by extension, I think that keeps Nevada in the conference, because Nevada and UNLV are in business together in the state of Nevada through the education department. So I think that was really important. So I think there's so many moving parts in this. Let's come back. I want to keep getting your comments in here. The Monty Show, as always, presented by The Advocate.
When you've been injured in an accident, you need a lawyer, and you deserve an advocate. Speaking with an attorney is simple and 100% free. We're available 24/7 for your convenience, and we'll take on the claims process so you can rest easy. You deserve an advocate.
Indeed, you do. The Advocates at theadvocates.com, where you never pay out of pocket for clear, risk-free legal advice. No retainers, no consultation fees. You don't pay the Advocates unless and until they win your case. And that means you get a settlement, which is how you pay the Advocates. You never reach into your pocket, because the Advocates know if you're looking for an injury attorney, it's one of the worst days of your life. They're ready to fight for you. They're ready to take all of that worry off your plate so you can get back to the best version of yourself. Chat with an injury attorney live online, 24/7, 365, and it won't cost you a dime at theadvocates.com. All right, if you're just tuning in this morning, resetting all the latest news on the Pac-12 Mountain West saga. Obviously, the lead story in this today is that UNLV and Air Force will remain in the Mountain West. They have, by all accounts, signed that agreement on the new grant of rights, which is what the Mountain West required of its remaining members. If you're going to stay here, you're going to sign a new grant of rights. UNLV and Air Force have agreed to sign that new grant of rights, pretty much locking them into the Mountain West through 2026 and into a new TV deal. So that is certainly something to keep your eye on. I really want to get to your comments. We already, in less than an hour, have 1,500 comments. Now more. Replace for $2. Replace MTW with MWC.
Yeah, that autocorrect will get you, bro.
It'll get you every time. Tony Barber. Hello, Tony. Good to see you. Agreed, Travis, but it would be a dream move for the Pac-12. Travis Hinton. I doubt the AAC would want to merge with the Pac-12. Never.
Well, I just don't think there's a need. Again, this question of value/need. Hey, again, what does the Pac-12 bring to the table for schools or for a prospective conference that you'd be looking at a merger with that they don't already have? And your only value at this point is the Pacific time zone. That's it. I mean, because that's your selling point. Hey, we're in Pacific time, which is obviously hugely valued to TV partners to fill that list. Has proven over the years, time and time again, to be a large TV viewership window. People love sitting on their couch, eating their chips, watching football late at night. People love it.
How did we watch the BYU game last week?
Yeah. Yes.
Big 12 after dark, 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time kickoff right here in the great state of Utah.
Look at that game delivering, right? Like, not just from a BYU standpoint, but just big plays. Like, it's everything you want.
Mrs. Monty and I went out to a nice dinner at Ruth's Chris, went to the Utah Symphony, came home right on time for kickoff.
Yeah.
The brand Pac-12 After Dark was real. And Big 12 After Dark is real too, obviously. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Big Daddy Magic. Yes, I've heard of American Pie. You mean Don McLean? Isn't he the basketball player, Don McLean? But okay. Jose Allen is long live the Pac-12. Could be. Could absolutely be. Dan Davis, I know I'm a Pac-12 homer.
What?
You're a homer.
Whoa,
First of all, you're a homer.
You're a homer.
Hold the first part. I appreciate that accountability.
I do.
Thank you.
But I can see the other side points also. Caps Lock Thursday. Can we all agree Sac State is not a serious conversation? Can we stop mentioning them, please? Hawaii and Wyoming are more likely. I mean, listen. Sorry. Sac State is a legit. I don't know how to break this to you, but Sacramento State.
Can you say it a little louder for everyone?
Sacramento State is a legitimate option.